And welcome to day 32 of the Atlantic hurricane season, day number 50 in the Eastern Pacific, where we currently have two systems: Tropical Storm Dalila, which is strengthening and is likely to reach hurricane status in the early hours of this morning UTC, and Invest 97E, which has just formed in the past hour or so before this update. We also have Tropical Storm Rumbia, which was a typhoon earlier today and has made landfall in China in the past hour or two. That's currently still moving towards the northwest, just past Hainan Island, and then made landfall on China itself, the mainland, and is expected to move inland and eventually dissipate. And Dalila is expected to move out to sea. All warnings have been lifted as of now on the Mexican coastline, as the main threat from the storm is now over. And Invest 97E is our next prospect for the Eastern Pacific hurricane season. In the Atlantic, we do have a lot of flood warnings along the east coast of the United States at the moment, but nothing tropical related at the moment. But however, the models, or at least one model, is predicting a little bit of tropical activity occurring in the Atlantic in a few days' time. The Indian Ocean is still quiet at the moment as well. A lot of cloud cover, however, over the northern section of the Indian Ocean and the Bay of Bengal, but nothing tropical related, or indeed anything that may develop into a tropical cyclone in the coming days. Looking at the sea surface temperatures then, the latest temperatures over the past day or so, around the Eastern Pacific, water's still quite warm here, around 30 degrees in one or two areas off the Mexican coastline, but 28 degrees, quite abundant. In the Gulf of Mexico, 30 degree water's quite abundant as well, especially towards the north and west of that area. And in the Western Pacific, some parts of the South China Sea have cooled with the passage of Rumbia, but some areas still remain above 30 degrees, especially around the Philippines, still very warm for tropical storms. So here is Tropical Storm Rumbia with winds of 70 miles per hour, so as of 9 PM UTC, July the 1st, pressure of 978 millibars, position was 20.5 north, 110.7 east, but it did make landfall in China very recently and is expected to weaken now and eventually dissipate in around 24 to 36 hours time, a day to a day and a half from now. Warning still in effect for China. It has a yellow typhoon warning for parts of southern China. The heavy rainfall areas are still highlighted in yellow at the moment, and we also have Signal 1 warnings in effect for Hong Kong and Macau. That means that tropical storm gusts may be occurring out to sea, but the main threat of a tropical storm over those areas has now gone. That's Signal 1 warnings there for Hong Kong and Macau there. In China, obviously, the typhoon warning still occurring. And Tropical Storm Dalila is moving off to the northwest, curving towards the west as a matter of fact, and is likely to reach Category 1 hurricane strength in the next 12 hours and maintain its strength for at least another 12 hours before weakening back to a tropical storm and then eventually dissipating out to sea in the Eastern Pacific, especially with waters getting colder out there as it moves towards the west, following in the footsteps of Cosme, which the very remnants of it still going towards the far left of that picture there. But Dalila itself, you can see moving past the Mexican coastline, making its closest approach earlier today, now moving away from Mexico, and you can just about see the new Invest towards the very far right of that image there. The Western Pacific, you can see Tropical Typhoon Rumbia making landfall in China there, moving over the Hainan and mainland Chinese regions, where obviously warnings are in effect, heavy rain leading to flooding. I believe some local reports already have some casualties in China at the moment as a result of the storm, and it's likely to move towards the northwest and eventually dissipate inland. What was Invest 90, you can see there approaching the Philippines, hardly anything left of it now and not a threat to develop. So let's look at the model runs then. The CMC model has another storm forming in the Eastern Pacific. That's 97E probably now, and it did have very briefly a little bit of a system moving into the Gulf Coast of the United States. I think it just flicked by there. The ECMWF model has that next system moving towards the generally west-northwest direction, probably skimming the Mexican coastline, not much closer than Dalila got to Mexican coast, but still quite close nonetheless. And the GFS model has Dalila moving southwest and then towards the northwest, a bit of a zigzag pattern there, and the next storm forming behind it, pushing it away effectively towards the west as that one develops as well. And the NavGem model there, you can see what you can see of it when it's actually there, moving towards the northwest. Dalila not really hinting at much in terms of the next system, 97E, but certainly has Dalila moving off there. The GFDL model here has Dalila again zigzagging towards the southwest and then towards the northwest. The official model doesn't have, the official forecast from the National Hurricane Centre doesn't have that scenario, has it moving straight west like the HWRF model has there, with that next system moving in according to the HWRF quite a storm as well, probably a hurricane strength storm as it moves past the Mexican coast. Looking at the overall predicted season scores then, July the 2nd, scores are going down for many, including the top three. Ken now with 99 points in first place, Typhoon Bopa with 91 in second place, and in third at the moment, Hurricane Melissa 20 with 89 points. That's the current situation with the predicted season. You can submit your own season at the website force13.com/interactive, and then click the 2013 predicted season button and then fill out the form, and that will be on the leaderboard, displayed on the leaderboard as soon as I can get it up there, which is sometimes not in that timely manner, because it is quite a pain to update sometimes, but there you have it. What happened on this day then, on July the 2nd, 1975, Tropical Storm Carlotta forming in the Eastern Pacific, that one's pictured there. 1983, Tropical Storm Cosme forming in the Eastern Pacific, later than this year's of course. In 1985, Tropical Storm Feifel forming in the Eastern Pacific as well, and in 1990, Hurricane Elida dissipating in the Eastern Pacific. Looking at 1991 now, Tropical Storm Anna forming near Florida, though it is moving off to the northwest, the northeast rather. 1992, Tropical Storm Darby forming in the Eastern Pacific. In 2000, Tropical Storm Kirogi formed in the Western Pacific, and in 2003, Tropical Storm Bill dissipated when it hit the United States. I believe it didn't it, in the Atlantic on July the 2nd on this day. Only 8 things occurred of any interest since 1965 in the Atlantic, other years further on in other regions. And don't forget, you can track any storm that forms, including the 2 that are currently active, on the website force13.com/storm tracking. There you can track the current storms, Dalila and Rumbia, and that takes you to the overview map, and then you can go more in depth, basin by basin, to see what's going on, the storm tracking maps, any information related to the storm, and of course any warning information as that becomes relevant. And of course it is relevant in the case of Rumbia in the Western Pacific as it moves into China. Obviously Typhoon Warning remains at yellow stage at the moment in China. I believe that's the second one up. Blue I believe is the first one, and we're also available on the social channels, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. On all 3 of those, just search Force 13. You should find us fairly easily enough, and don't forget to show your support if you wish by liking, following, subscribing, favoriting and anything else that comes to mind that I may have missed out there. And do send in any comments on the YouTube channel on the video, and I'll get back to it if you have any questions or any queries about anything that's covered in this update, or indeed any suggestions for any future updates. I'll be very open to hear about how I could present better if that is necessary. The next bulletin will be coming up at around midnight UTC on July the 3rd, with possible updates in between during the day on both storms. That's it for now though. But that's it for the time being.